talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic. I hope you guys are all doing well. As most of you guys have heard by now, Allen Robinson is officially gone as he signs a 3-year deal with the Los Angeles Rams. And something that's been on my mind, especially after Allen Robinson has officially departed from the Chicago Bears, is what is Ryan Pohl's plan at wide receiver? As you guys all know, Ryan Pohl is taking a very patient approach to free agency this year, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think us as Bears fans, we're just used to Ryan Pace throwing out all the money to all the top free agents and signing everybody possible. But that is not Ryan Pohl's plan. He's planning to let the market come to him and let it shape itself out, which is not necessarily a bad plan. And I think we all have to realize that the Bears are not winning anything this year. I think he's looking to 2023 and beyond. But we have to realize that we do have to sign some guys to replace Allen Robinson, which is going to be very tough to do. So now I'm going to give you guys some options to replace Allen Robinson and bring in some more wide receivers to the Chicago Bears offense. And before I get going, I have to tell you guys that the Bears currently only have 3 wide receivers under contract, and that includes Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome, and December Webster, which is, outside of Darnell Mooney, it's very underwhelming. So Ryan Pohl has a lot of work to do to add multiple wide receivers so Justin Fields can have somebody to throw to in this upcoming season. And obviously, with Ryan Pohl being so patient in free agency and taking that approach, we have seen many wide receivers that have already come off the board in free agency. That includes Christian Kirk going to the Jaguars. Obviously, I feel like he got paid way too much, which that's fine. And then DJ Chark going to the Detroit Lions for a 1-year, $10 million deal. I really like DJ Chark as he is 6'4". He's blazing fast, and I feel like that would have been a really good weapon for Justin Fields. So let's discuss the options that the Chicago Bears actually have still not only in free agency, but with the NFL draft coming up. And trust me, there are still plenty of options to bring in guys that can help Justin Fields improve as soon as next season. Number 1 on my list is Marquez Valdes-Scantling, better known as MVS. And MVS has a very strong market in this free agency period. There's multiple teams that are interested in him, and that includes the Chicago Bears. And let me tell you something about MVS. This would be a pretty good and cheap option for the Chicago Bears. He is only 27 years old. He stands at 6'4", and he is a speedster. This isn't a guy that he didn't have a huge role with the Green Bay Packers, but I feel like if we were able to bring him to Chicago, he would have a much bigger role in Chicago. Plus, his connection with Luke Getsy would make him a perfect fit in Chicago. And this is by no means a guy that will come in and replace Allen Robinson. That's going to be tough to do, like I mentioned. But I do feel like pairing him with Darnell Mooney could be special for the Chicago Bears offense, and I feel like it would give Justin Fields a dependable weapon. So that's definitely a guy that we should keep our eye on. Number 2, we're moving on to the NFL draft. Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, and this would be the perfect pick for the Chicago Bears at 39. Obviously, they have 2 second-round picks, but I think if Christian Watson is still there at pick number 39, I feel like this would be the perfect pick, especially since we have a deep need at wide receiver. He is 6'5" and runs a 4.36. He is absolutely a speedster, and that's something that I like, that he's 6'4", and he has that legit long speed and quickness, and has the ability to create that separation, which is very unique for a receiver of his size. And when you're thinking about what Ryan Pohl and the Chicago Bears are looking for, not only on the offensive side of the football, but the entirety of the football team, the Bears are looking for speed and explosiveness, and Watson would give the Bears just that. Plus, the Bears have already met with Christian Watson twice, so that tells you that the Bears are definitely interested in Christian Watson. Like I said, I feel like if he's still there at 39, I feel like this will be a home run pick for the Chicago Bears to hopefully give Justin Fields some more weapons this season. Number 3 on my list, I have Byron Pringle. He stands at 6'1". Pringle would be another cheap option for the Chicago Bears to consider. Obviously, Pohl's, while he was in Kansas City, saw Pringle put together the most productive season of his 3-year career in Kansas City in 2021. Pringle is another pretty explosive player with good speed and is a dependable target. He caught 70% of his targets in 2021, and he has also shown the ability to be a solid role player. I feel adding a guy like Byron Pringle to bring him in as a role player, not necessarily be your wide receiver number 1, but just to be a solid role player, make plays for the Chicago Bears. I think it would be an absolutely great pickup for Ryan Pohl and the Chicago Bears. And like I mentioned, even though none of these guys, I don't think any of these guys can necessarily replace Allen Robinson, but I feel like you can get all these guys on cheap contracts and they will produce right away. And sometimes it's better to have multiple dependable targets, not just that one wide receiver number 1, right? Of course, you need wide receiver number 1 in technical terms. Yes, that is true. But I feel like if you can get these guys on cheap contracts, I guarantee you that they would produce right away. And think about it. Earlier in the podcast, I mentioned that the 3 wide receivers under contract for this season are Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome, which Daz Newsome is also a speedster, and Nsimba Webster, which he's also a speedster. But when you look at Daz Newsome and Webster, they're really only used for special teams. So pretty underwhelming. But if we signed and drafted the guys that I mentioned in this podcast, this is what the receiver room would look like going into this season. Darnell Mooney, MVS, Christian Watson, Byron Pringle, Daz Newsome, and Nsimba Webster. Now, that is a group that I feel more confident about going into next season. And add that with hopefully a rebuilt offensive line that I hope that Ryan Pohl attacks a little bit more in this free agency period. And I feel that Justin Fields should have plenty of weapons going into next season. Is it the greatest group alive? Absolutely not. But I feel like all these guys fit what the Bears are trying to bring to Chicago, which is speed and explosiveness and guys that are dependable at all times for Justin Fields. And that would definitely bail Justin Fields out. And these are not the only guys that we can consider. Obviously, you still have guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, right? When you look at the NFL draft, you have George Pickens, maybe David Bell, right? Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. There is so many options for Ryan Pohl to address the wide receiver room. And that's why, even though it sucks to see Allen Robinson go, I strongly believe that Ryan Pohl will be able to add some quality wide receivers, not only in the free agency period, but the NFL draft. So try to relax and let's see the finished product before we panic. So, like always, comment down below in the comment section and tell me who you would like to see the Bears pick up, not only in free agency, but the NFL draft in terms of the wide receiver position. I would love to hear from you. But before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic.